ancient Sumer. All of them existed, and it's not just myth or rumor. Greek gods, Hindu gods, all gods in relief. Weave a magic tapestry of spiritual belief. All of them have been here, part of spiritual decor. And all of them are aspects of a complex cosmic form.
It doesn't matter if you're Christian or if you're Muslim or Hindu. Your horizons need to open to a universal view. The dynamics of change in an endless cosmic sea. All need to be a part of your mind's reality. There's more than one intrusion when you finally chase the odds of groups in competition in the pantheon of gods.
Expect the unexpected if you peer beyond the veil. Those spiritual anomalies your senses will assail.
You can advertise your business on Night Dreams Talk Radio, and you will be heard worldwide. Why not contact us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com. From our compound, from the West Coast to the East Coast to worldwide, both on the Internet and terrestrial radio, you're listening to Gary Anderson on Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark.
And here I am. I'll tell you what, I already got goosebumps talking to Terry Lovelace here tonight. Now, Terry, I got to ask you something that it's really, I'm scared because you have proved a point what I've been trying to convey to listeners for the last 2 years. I have had people come on and say, well, these, aliens or whatever they are, they're here to protect mankind. I had one person who has a PhD, a psychiatrist actually, said that there's 25 million cloaked UFOs circulating around Earth, protecting Earth. And I started wondering, thank God I'm not one of her clients, if that's what she believes. But, I don't think there's 25 million UFOs cloaked around and protecting us, because if they are, Antarctica we wouldn't be going through what we've been going through with all these wars and everything else. But here, you're in the military, right? You're in the Air Force. You come back, yes. And I'm certain you had to report what you saw after you were in the hospital. How did they take it and what happened? Tell us what went on.
Sure. Here's what happened. We got back. I dropped Toby off. I went to my house, and I walked in the door and was ready to just fall over. And I just had this incredible thirst. I was critically ill. I was dehydrated so bad. And my wife took my temperature. I had a temp of 104, and she drew a cold bath for me. And I sat in that, and my fever went down. She gave me some aspirin, I drank tumbler after tumbler of powdered lemonade, and she took me to the hospital. And, Toby and I both worked at the hospital, so we knew everybody there. And I think what happened was, the park rangers found that fence that gate across the road that we took down, and drove in and found our little campsite. Because when we left, we didn't bother to pack. We ran to the car, and we got out of there. Our tent, Toby's backpack with his address and phone number in it was left there.
Oh, wow.
So, they called the base and said, it looks like two of your airmen were down here, and they got a campsite. Looks like they're coming back for something. So that got the authorities interested. And then the USI got interested. And this is really telling. I was in my hospital bed, and my night nurse came in to give me some medication. And when she did, these two guys in business suits followed her in, and the one guy, the older guy, spoke up and said, if that's going to sedate Sergeant Lovelace, it's going to have to wait just a little bit. We need to ask him a few questions. And she left in a huff, and these two guys were just really intimidating. I mean, I was scared of these guys. I mean, I was 22. I'd never been in trouble in my life, And these guys just, I mean, you could tell they were cops. And, they didn't try to hide their shoulder holster with their revolver in it. And the guys, I asked, they showed me their credentials.
Now, were they military police or civilian police?
No, they were U.S. Air Force Office of Special Investigations, the OSI. Okay. The OSI is to the Air Force what NCIS is to the Navy. They're the investigative branch. So these guys were detectives.
I can see why you're scared right there.
Yeah, tough guys. They pull up a chair beside me on either side. One's a captain, doesn't say anything, and the guy who's a major does all the talking. And he's got this flat top haircut, like he used to do in the 60s. And, oh, man, he was just, the guy scared me. And he had this Calvin Parker kind of accent. And I asked him, I said, sir, am I in trouble? And he says, son, would we be here if you weren't in trouble? and the captain starts laughing, And he reads me my rights, like he's reading the can of, like the ingredients off a soup can, and takes off his glasses and says, "Now, do you understand your rights?" And I said, "Yes, sir. Everything right over my head. I don't know. I mean, I'm 22. I'm dumb. I've never been in trouble."
Well, Terry, but here all you did was you went into a campsite. You didn't even know where it was at. Okay, you didn't even know that you broke a law. So when they sit there and they come in and they're saying this to you, I could imagine, and I'm going to say a bad word on the radio, I bet you were shitting bricks.
Absolutely I was. You bet I was. And, what he said was, he says, you boys left your little campsite down there. That tells me you was coming back. He says, you boys got yourselves a little marijuana plot down there? Now, this was 1977. That could have meant Leavenworth for me. If somebody just by happenstance had a marijuana plot down there near our campsite, that would have been bad news,
Yeah.
And I didn't know. He was playing games with me. Anyone know, what are you doing down there? What were you down there for? Did you know that was federal land? And he made a big deal out of that. And I thought, this guy is nuts. That's not federal land. That's a state park. Well, actually, he was right. It is federal land. And, the captain left, and the major shut the door, and he got down right next to my ear. And he said, son, I know, and you two knuckleheads stumbled onto something out there, didn't you? And I think you know what I mean. Oh, I know you know what I mean. And I didn't answer him. And he says, look, all I want to know is, how many pictures of it did you take? And I want you to give me your film right now. And this will all go away. And I said, sir, I never took a single picture of the thing. And then he turns back on the tough guy affect with facial expression, gets down nose to nose to me and says, I don't believe you. And then 6 weeks later, they called me to the OSI office and put me in an interrogation room. And when I was in the hospital, he had me sign forms. He laid out 6 forms in front of me. And I said, sir, what are these? And he said, son, these are waivers and consent. He says, these give us permission to just take a look in your house and your car to see if you got anything you're not supposed to have. You don't have anything you're not supposed to have now, do you? And I said, no, sir. He says, well, then you wouldn't mind signing these, would you? Or you have any objection to that? You don't want us to look at your stuff? And I said, no, sir, I got nothing to hide. So I signed all 6 of these forms. And I got arc welders burned in my eyes. I can't read. It's a blur. And one of those was a consent to hypnotic regression with chemical memory enhancement or something like that.
Oh, boy.
I couldn't read it then, but I could read it when I was in that interrogation room with the same 2 agents. and a third guy, a major, knocked on the door and came in. And he talked to the agents that ignored me for a moment, and then he turns around and shakes my hand and said, "Sergeant Lovelace, it's so good to finally meet you." And I'm confused. This guy's carried himself like, like a priest or a therapist, not like a military officer. And he says, "Sergeant Lovelace, would you do me a favor? Would you call me Brad? That is my name, just for today." And I said, "Yes, sir." He says, "Yes, Brad." I said, "Yes, Brad." I said, "Sergeant Lovelace, may I call you Terry? That is your name." I mean, this guy was spooky.
Yeah.
And he scoots his chair over, encroaches into my personal space, and says, "Terry, can I ask you, do you trust me?" And I thought, I trust you like hell. But, but I said, "Yes, Brad." And he said, "Well, I'm going to give you some medicine in your arm," which I found out was sodium amytal.
Oh, boy, that's bad stuff.
Yeah. And he took me through a hypnotic regression, or memory regression. Typical. Now, I had been taking night classes in psychology. My undergraduate degree is in psychology, and I've been taking classes, and I knew he couldn't hypnotize me against my will. So he did this but I knew I had no control over the medication. And so as he's doing this hypnosis thing, he's having me walk down the stairs. He's got this smooth radio announcer voice. Take the first step, feeling relaxed, feeling calm. Take the next step, feeling 10 times calmer, 10 times more relaxed. You get the idea. And in my head, I'm going back up the number line. I'm going back up the stairs. And I made the decision I'm going to try to not surrender my mind to this guy, at least not fully. And I'm playing Beatle music in my head and everything I can think of and try to act compliant. But when he gave me that medicine, it was like, bam. And he asked me, he said, "Okay, Terry, I want you to tell me what you see. Don't tell me what you think. Tell me what you see in your mind's eye." And he says, you and Toby went camping, didn't you?" I said, "Yes, Brad." And he says, "My, that must have been exciting. And you saw some funny lights in the sky, didn't you?" And I said, "Yes, Brad." And he said, "But they weren't funny lights, were they, Terry?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Who were they, Terry?" I said, "It was a spaceship." And he says, "But who were they, Terry?" I said, "They were the space people." Now, he knew. He was leading me down the path. He knew. Just like that major, whenever he said, "You two knuckleheads stumbled onto something," I knew what he was getting at. He knew, too. I don't know how he knew, but he knew. And under this drug, I saw this stuff that had been, I guess, in my subconscious when they wiped my memory. And this stuff came all flooding back. And that's where a lot of these memories come from. That and they match up with my nightmares.
Now, I want to step in here. What they gave you was basically, sodium pentothal?
It was called sodium amytal, and it's a short-acting hypnotic. It's what it's classified as. They give it to you intravenously, they gave me several doses.
Yeah, they have to constantly give it to you, otherwise it stops working. But it's almost like a form of LSD, if I remember right about it. So basically, when they were injecting this with you, you had no control of answering to them. Whatever they asked you, you're going to tell them.
Yeah. I was amazed. I was amazed when I said the space people, because that meant I knew them. I mean, I don't know where or how, but on some level, I must have known them before.
So how did they treat you after this? I mean, you're still in the Air Force. I mean,
yeah.
Were you planning?
Here's what they did.
Yeah, what happened to you?
What the whole purpose of this exercise was to find out. They were scared to death that I had taken, because I had a reputation of being a photographer, an amateur photographer. I had a dark room set up in my house. And they were terrified. I